And therefore, when we're opening up that other institutions can still offer the pre-entry exams into the legal profession, and other institutions can also train and for the advocates so that they can graduate. I think it's opening up so that somebody does not have to, we can have schools of laws in Kisumu, in Mombasa, in Eldoret, and other places, and therefore it will take off the congestion in Nairobi, because when you look at the congestion and even the costs, because nowadays even taking children to the Kenya School of Law, it has become very expensive and very competitive. And it's also congestion in terms of even classes. Because when you look at now, you have several institutions offering law. Moi University, University of Nairobi, Jomo Kenyatta University, so, and even other private universities which have opened up. So to me, I think this is a good amendment, and I can compare it only to medical. As in medicine, we already opened it up, that you can go for internship in many institutions within the Republic of Kenya. Therefore, I don't think anybody should be opposing this. I think this is a very positive contribution. So with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to support and wish our Muslim brothers Ramadan Kareem. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member Voseme.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to oppose this amendment bill on principle, not on content. Because, Mr. Speaker, in my view, since I came to this parliament, this is my second term, I'm beginning to see the object and the purpose of miscellaneous amendments changing. It was meant that to make minor amendments do not have profound change in the act involved. That is not what we are seeing. We are seeing major changes, and I'll go through these examples. Whether they're good or not good, that's not my issue. Mr. Speaker, if they're not in the principle of miscellaneous amendments. Again, Mr. Speaker, when you are dealing with miscellaneous amendments, we do not have as much opportunity as when you are dealing with a bill to interrogate it and to also do serious public participation. So if you look at this, Mr. Speaker, you find that if you talk of the shipping, the merchant and support this bill, if again you look at the Public Finance Management Act, now we are saying, Mr. Speaker, that there was a resolution of the Parliamentary Service Commission that they should have more than one accounting officer. As much as that may be good, but Mr. Speaker, again, that is a major change and in the management of that institution. And further, Mr. Speaker, I find it not acceptable that you want to use miscellaneous amendments to legalize the resolution of a commission which passed a resolution that at that time is illegal. It's not in law. So that, Mr. Speaker, is not really in my mind acceptable. When we come to the Kenya School of Law, I agree totally with the principle that the Kenya School of Law as it is now has actually been a bottleneck. There are very many graduates coming out and they cannot come to be advocates. But again, Mr. Speaker, we are, first of all, opening it up so very many institutions, including private institutions, are going to offer a training of advocates. That's a major change in law. And Mr. Speaker, you are also saying that you will change the admission requirements into the Kenya School of Law or all these other schools of laws that will be created. Again, that is a major change in the provision of law. And if you go into the Legal Education Act, Mr. Speaker, it is again the same. And here you will even ask that this is an amendment where we would have had to look at it very seriously. Mr. Speaker, many students go to study law and get LLB. Then they need to get a diploma at the Kenya School of Law. Now, we're having a restriction on that. So we are saying now we are going to open up so that we have very many institutions providing this diploma. Now, in my mind, the first question we should ask, Mr. Speaker, what is the difference in the content that are in the universities that are providing LLB and the content that is at the Kenya School of Law? Because I know at the beginning it was actually probably 6 months. Now it has extended itself to 2 years, and it has become very expensive. It is now more expensive to go to the Kenya School of Law and get a diploma than to get a degree. I agree that is good. But, Mr. Speaker, is that not the time we should look at those issues and even look at the contents, instead of just saying we are going to open up, now we are going to have many institutions providing the training for advocates, we are going to change the admission into these institutions? That, in my mind, would have required a substantive law, which I will support. But, Mr. Speaker, being brought as miscellaneous amendments, I don't like it. If you look at the Terrorism Act, it's saying, it's giving provision on who is going to be the National Counterterrorism Center, who are going to be the members. Very substantive in a very, very important and critical area. Again, we are doing an amendment. And, Mr. Speaker, whether members will agree with me or not, we do not go through the miscellaneous amendments with the same vigor, focus that we do with bills that are brought. So, Mr. Speaker, I do not have, and even if you look at content, the Companies Act, the bill further seeks to amend the act to reduce the percentage of shares which may be offered for the sale from. Now, again, you are going in a very detailed area where you actually need detailed public participation. We are not giving that. So, Mr. Speaker, I do not have the problem with the content as much as I have. And I would have asked my colleagues, let's reject this bill as a protest so that we bring back the real object and intent of miscellaneous amendments. And, Mr. Speaker, my suggestion would be, Mr. Speaker, we bring, whether it is the House, whether it is the standing orders or whatever standards we need, how many acts can we amend in one miscellaneous bill? I think we need to have that. Two, Mr. Speaker, we need also to know what is the extent to the, of amendment in each act. I think.
Haru. Still looks like where the machine where you are is. I think there's a problem around there, because although your name appears, but it don't, yeah, you use that one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the miscellaneous laws amendment, Mr. Speaker. And allow me to start with the, what I would call not very much contentious issues, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. First of all, I really agree with the amendment insofar as Tourism Act is concerned, Mr. Speaker, because basically I think this is just a matter of semantics. And these are the kind of things I hope we should be handling in the miscellaneous amendments, Mr. Speaker, by including, of course, universities, because previously, definitely, we had only like Kutari College offering this kind of training. But now we have burgeoning and many universities that are offering courses that help in training personnel in our tourism sector. Also, Mr. Speaker, I want to side with the many speakers before me who have spoken against the PMF Act as we want to amend it, Mr. Speaker, because this country, I think the major problem we have, especially even in the matter of fighting corruption, is knowing actually where to lay responsibility. Because, Mr. Speaker, it is said that what belongs to everyone belongs to no one. And therefore, by introducing more parties, especially insofar as PSC is concerned, in terms of the accounting officer, Mr. Speaker, I don't think we need layers and layers of bureaucracy and people who should be answering the hard questions. Mr. Speaker, also insofar as Kenya School of Law is concerned, I don't think it is right for us to give monopoly on one institution, first of all, to know who to admit, Mr. Speaker. And I think for a long time, probably, the Kenya School of Law has been usurping powers, especially for the Council for Legal Affairs. Therefore, it's timely. But Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I have major problems on two amendments. One, insofar as the Companies Act is concerned, and number two, Madam Speaker, insofar as the Merchant Shipping Act is concerned. Madam Speaker, one of the issues that Madam Speaker, one of the sector we have is the kind of private sector that is dominated by SMEs. And we should be doing everything possible to support the small companies, especially to transit from being small to medium, and of course to large companies. And Madam Speaker, there are so many advantages of your company being categorized as a small company, because number one, in terms of taxation, and therefore, Madam Speaker, for us to increase the number of employees that a small company should have, from, Madam Speaker, decreasing that number from 50 to 25, Madam Speaker, is taking a lot of advantages from the previously categorized small companies. Also, Madam Speaker, one called violent takeover, where a person comes into the company and they acquire shareholding with an intention to push especially the small shareholders out of the register of that book. Madam Speaker, we have seen previously violent takeovers happening even in our own NSC. A company like Rea Vipingo a few years ago, Madam Speaker, was taken over by the two original brothers through this kind of an arrangement. Madam Speaker, just recently also of the small shareholders, because as you know, Madam Speaker, when people are taking their companies public, most of them, of course, they leave over 50% plus one with themselves. But it would be very hard for anyone with an intention of violently taking over a company, Madam Speaker. It would be harder the way the Companies Act is now, that you need a threshold of 90% plus one. Madam Speaker, also, this issue of Merchant Shipping Act, actually listening to the chair of transport in this assembly, Madam Speaker, convinces us even more not to support the amendments. Because the chair was very forthright that now the company, the GOK and the public want to amend this act so that we can give the government a leeway to acquire ships. Madam Speaker, I think this is foolhardy, and especially given the kind of explanation that was given by the chair, that matters of stabilizing prices, stabilizing the cost of shipping, Madam Speaker, I think that was a very defeatist argument. Because, Madam Speaker, we have precedents in this country where we put up companies to be public, ostensibly, Madam Speaker, to stabilize prices, and they actually went ahead to do the exact opposite. The reason why a company like National Oil was formed, Madam Speaker, was to safeguard the consumers, for them to be the stabilizers of these prices. But now, Madam Speaker, that company was swallowed in the same kind of cartel within the oil sector, Madam Speaker, and it actually plays no role because it's not as efficient as the other companies, Madam Speaker. If you talk about also stabilizing pricing, we have also examples, even in the banking sector, where we have actually the banks, which are owned by GOK, majority owned by GOK, leapfrogs other private entities within the same sector, Madam Speaker, one in matters of profitability, but also in matters of pricing of their products. The work of the government is to offer platforms. It is not to use those platforms to be capitalistic. Madam Speaker, the government already has enough on its plate even on the same transportation sector, Madam Speaker, and I think they should leave the work of using their platforms to the private sector. There is no guarantee that if the government of Kenya owns ships, that will have any stabilization in the pricing of transportation and especially shipping. The government should stick on offerings platforms, Madam Speaker, but also more importantly, on regulation. Even in the oil sector, the government, by realizing that NOC was not helping and still is not helping in stabilizing prices, Madam Speaker, they went to regulation through the ERC. And that is how we came up, Madam Speaker, to where we are, where the rights of also the consumers of oil products are safeguarded. Madam Speaker, I tend to believe that we should force the government to stick there. Regulation and offering platforms. The government cannot be offering the platform of roads and air and go ahead to offer, Madam Speaker, the means. That is the same problem we have with KQ, that we still want to retain KQ as a public entity, even when it is bleeding cash, Madam Speaker, to the detriment of the Kenyan taxpayers. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we should never tread on that very slippery path of aiding the government in being in the business of doing business. They should stick on what they do best. And we have seen, Madam Speaker, that even by offering platforms, KPA is one of the most profitable companies and entities owned by GOK. We should not siphon the same profits, Madam Speaker, by opening up, Madam Speaker, a leeway for the government to use the same platform to make losses, because I believe that is what they'd be doing if we...
Your time is over. The member for Kiaru. Order members, I have 7 requests to speak to this. And of course, from where the speaker sits, I'm able to tell each and every member who is in the house. I know some could be consulting. I may not be in a position to see them. And as per the request is to show the transparency of the assembly, I see the request. We have the member or sorting nominated who is not in the house, who is in the house. I give you first priority. There's a member who has just walked in. I remember sometimes let's not leave our cards and come back at time. Of course, but the procedures of the house allows us to consult. I know where you consult from. So let me give the first one to the member Otsoti Godfrey. Honorable Wanka, I am aware of you. You do not have a card, but you're next after Otsoti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to this bill. Madam Speaker, I join my colleague here, Honorable Nyikal, to oppose this bill, because as he has said, it has now become a tradition that whenever you see a miscellaneous amendment bill, you must read through it carefully, because that is where sometimes bad things are hidden. And indeed, even in this one, Madam Speaker, there are some of the amendments which have been proposed, which, in my own view, are not good for this country. One of it is the amendments proposed on the Districts and the Provinces Act 1992. Madam Speaker, this bill is not properly before the House. Because if you read the memorandum to this bill, it says the bills do not affect the counties.
Order. Honorable, so sometimes it's good to justify your implications. What do you mean by saying the bill is not properly before the House? And it, of course, it has been listed in your order paper.
Madam Speaker, I'm making reference to the Districts and Provinces Act, Amendment Act, because in the memorandum to this bill, it states that the bills which are contained in this miscellaneous amendment bill do not affect the counties. But when you read through the parent act of the Districts and the Provinces Act, then you realize that the provisions of that act actually refer to the counties that we have, because it talks about Kenya is divided into 47 districts, Nairobi and other 46 districts. We are aware that this country is in the devolution arrangement, where we have 47 counties and not districts. So there is some ambiguity in the original act that we are trying to amend here. And even the amendments, they are suggesting that they want to come up with the CS responsible to come up with the regulations.
But Honorable Osoti, for you not to mislead the House, and of course from your own sentiments, saying the bill is not proper without just bringing maybe a
So, Madam Speaker, I'm trying to say.
So you contribute to that. If you have an issue, you can always bring it, and it will be debated, and then maybe we will give an official communication on the constitutionality or whether the bill is before the House or not. But for now, we debate as it is, as you can see it is in the order paper.
So, Madam Speaker, we know we already have another act of parliament called the National Government Coordination Act, which basically is recognizing the 47 counties, but this one is talking about the districts and the provinces. We know we no longer have provinces in this country. So for amendments to come to this House that only touches on one aspect of regulation, and it doesn't talk about removing the provinces and renaming them as counties or removing the district, I think this is where I'm concerned. And I am happy the committee responsible said that they were going to withdraw this particular amendment. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk to the amendment to the Kenya School of Law and the Legal Education Act. I want to agree with the speakers who have spoken before me that we have a serious problem that needs to be looked at. We have seen mass failures at Kenya School of Law, and we have been wondering where is the problem. I think it's time to also open up opportunities for other institutions to be licensed to offer law, so that we don't have one institution that has a monopoly to offer law. We want competition, so that if they are not able to offer best education, competitors can offer that best education. So I think I support this. Where I disagree with them is that I think it is important to clearly define who does what. Because sometimes you find Kenya School of Law is dealing with the issues of examination, which basically is supposed to be done by the legal education, under the Legal Education Act. So we need further refinement of these two laws. And Madam Speaker, I think it will be better if these two laws are condensed into one law, Kenya School of Law Act and the Legal Education Act, so that we have what have been proposed to the Public Finance Management Act, which are seeking to create additional accounting officer for Parliamentary Service Commission. I think there is mischief here. And Madam Speaker, we would want to bring amendments, as Honorable Mboko Milemba said, because we cannot allow mischief to creep into our own commission, Parliamentary Service Commission. If we have a problem with a particular accounting officer, we need to address it administratively. We cannot address the problem by seeking to amend a law. Because tomorrow we are going to have issues with other commission. Are we also going to have the benefit of amending the law so that we solve that problem? So I think this one, we will be standing firmly and saying, if we have a problem administratively with a particular officer, let us deal with that problem administratively. It cannot be done by seeking to amend the law. Because by doing this, it is unconstitutional, Madam Speaker. Because the Parliamentary Service Commission is established in the constitution of this country. Madam Speaker, I also want to talk to the Kenya Law Reform Commission. Madam Speaker, you know that the Kenya Law Reform Commission is very important, especially in the engagement with Parliament, because some of the bills that come here are processed through the Kenya Law Reform Commission. This bill is seeking to give clarification on the composition of the Kenya Law Reform Commission and also on the authority to appoint members of the Law Reform Commission. We would like to be very clear under which arm of the government this law commission belongs to. We have had changes in the executive order as to where they belong. And I think this will help us address that problem we have. Finishing, Madam Speaker, I also want to add that miscellaneous amendment bill, as has been proposed by Honorable Nyikal, we need to relook at it. How many bills can be amended in the miscellaneous amendment bill, and what are the contents of those bills? Because sometimes we bring substantive amendments in the miscellaneous amendment bill, where miscellaneous amendment bill is supposed to deal with small issues like divination, ambiguities, and small changes here. But sometimes you bring a substantive amendment in the miscellaneous amendment bill. I think we need to relook at our standing orders so that we deal with such and ensure that mischief is not introduced in the miscellaneous amendment bill. We need to go to a substantive amendment and not bring such issues here. For example, this substantive amendment on the District and Provinces Act. What is the mischief? Is someone trying to bring back the national government into the county system? Or what is he doing? What kind of regulation is he going to make? So, Madam Speaker, I stand here to say I oppose this bill, and we will be bringing amendments to it at the committee stage. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, even for pronouncing yourself that you are aware of bringing amendments at the committee stage. So when you are aware of what happens, that's when we comb the bill clause by clause, and including what you have been alluding to. So I give the opportunity to the member for Vunyula, the Honorable Undo Ojiambo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. First of all, on the onset, let me comment. I have a feeling this miscellaneous amendment bill could actually be referred to as mischievous amendment bill, because essentially it seems the intention of the executive is to amend the law substantively through miscellaneous amendment, knowing that it's voluminous, and many of us believe miscellaneous should only relate to smaller and minor issues that requires to be rectified, either to align an act of parliament to new policy or the constitution, or to address some pertinent and emerging issue. But to generally bring about 10 or so acts in one particular arrangement means really the executive seems to be up on something. Now, Madam Speaker, so that said and done, there are various issues that are obviously coming through that require serious discussion, serious review before they are considered or before we conclude the process. Number one, the amendments on the Merchant Shipping Act, number 4 of 2009, is indeed extremely dangerous to this country. It's extremely dangerous and should not be allowed to go through. Giving discretion to one particular person to vitiate or set aside a law in respect of a particular entity, be it government or anything else, is dangerous to this country. That is, we are creating a rogue system that will misuse the law to confer benefits to individuals, friends, and cronies, essentially bringing this country into an economic ruin. A cabinet secretary cannot be the keeper or the filler of public interest. Government policy cannot dictate to an extent that we punish the entire population of Kenya. A cabinet secretary is not elected, does not represent public interest. A cabinet secretary represents the interest of the appointing authority, so cannot purport to measure and gauge public interest. I'm so sure I will rally colleagues in the committee of the whole House to literally shoot down that particular amendment because it's offensive and does not keep the interests of Kenyans at heart. Secondly, Madam Speaker, and then we have the Clerk of the National Assembly in respect of the National Assembly. Indeed, with the plain reading of the Article 127(3) of the Constitution might suggest that the Clerk of the Senate shall be the Secretary to the Commission. Indeed, is suggesting that is the only person authorized, the only office authorized to be the accounting officer of Parliamentary Service Commission. Amendment that the amendment or what is provided from the PFM Act could as well be unconstitutional, but that's a matter that needs to be raised by the relevant people who know what's supposed to be done. I would generally oppose that amendment because that's creating as many accounting officers as there can be. Everybody literally become an accounting officer, and that, in my view, is a pure attempt to subvert proper management of public resources, and there's a possibility that a scheme could easily be hatched to defraud public funds by using so many other accounting officers. On the issue of the Kenya School of Law Act, I'm not an advocate, but I sincerely believe we need to maintain standards. We have had problems in this country about the quality of students that we churn from the university. We have challenges in this country about the quality of technical and professional advice being rendered by the so-called professionals in this country. And I do support a stringent approach to generally ensure that people who are given licenses to operate or practice as professionals truly have met the minimum threshold and deserve to work and perform that particular function. I'm not worried of mass failure. You can only pass an exam if you are qualified and prepared to pass for an exam. Just merely because those unprepared have failed is not the best way, it's not the best approach to purport to change the law so that you can have mass people pass in mass simply to please some people. Technically, in a typical organization, we must conform to the law, the normal distribution curve, where there must be failures, there must be people at the center, and there must be high scorers. So obviously, we might have to relook at it vis-a-vis the entire act, and we need to be very careful on how we move. On the issue of the Prevention of Terrorism Act, Madam Speaker, the list is so long of the people, of the officers that sit there, and the process of appointment is not very clear. Is it a substantive office holder that is purported to sit there, or will the substantive office holder nominate somebody to sit in that particular place, in those particular offices? Probably we need clarity on that matter. Madam Speaker, let me finally, as I conclude, let me make a comment on the amendments of the Company Act. By the very nature of SMEs and small organizations, and depending on the nature of work they are doing, 25%, because then we'll knock out a very large number of people or organizations that generally belong to the SMEs and the rest. Madam Speaker, on the issue of Wildlife Conservation and Management Act, we seem to have a problem, and I'm afraid it might not have been captured here clearly, on the issue of compensation for people who have been injured by wildlife. I have in mind that the issue of snake bites in my constituency, we have had so many people have been bitten by snakes, they have filled the compensation form, and it has taken over 10 years, no response at all, no word at all. In fact, we are about to prepare a petition as a community and bring it here for Parliament to consider on what way to do. Probably this could be an opportune time that we could as well intervene in the Wildlife Conservation Management Act to ensure that we put a time frame on the when can a claim for compensation as a result of injury, as a result of wildlife, can be paid instead of waiting forever. Because at this stance now, we have a problem that we need to address clearly. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the bill, but with reservations, and I hope that the committee of the full house will deal with those issues that we have raised. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, very well. The member for Suba North. No, before you, I had already mentioned the member, Honorable Wanga, Nyasuna. Yeah, where I don't know where your card is, Honorable Nyasuna.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your kind consideration. Madam Speaker, I'd like to just add my voice to the reservations expressed by several members on how increasingly we are using these omnibus bills to bring very, very fundamental amendments, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as we have known it, these miscellaneous amendment bills should be focused on correcting anomalies, inconsistencies, outdated terminology, errors that are minor and non-controversial. But Madam Speaker, increasingly we are amending most fundamental sections of our law. I think somebody in the executive or somewhere has perhaps discovered that the shortest route to making amendments is through these miscellaneous amendments. And so they, instead of going through the normal process of the other bills, they lump these together and bring them, and they know that because there are too many laws in one, and at the same time committees do not get enough time, because it is just one clause maybe here, committees sometimes do not get enough time to conduct sufficient public participation on just maybe one section of the law, as it would if we had a whole bill on a matter. Madam Speaker, I want to also express very strong reservations on that matter before going into the content of the bill. And Madam Speaker, as we start with the issue of the merchant shipping, Madam Speaker, this is the most blatant and offensive section, Madam Speaker, because if you look at the current law, Section 4 of it, the Merchant Shipping Act of 2009, it says that the minister shall, in addition to any other powers conferred on him by any other provisions of this act, be responsible for the administration and implementation of this act, which should be the case. But right now we want to insert a section saying that notwithstanding any other provision of this act, the Cabinet Secretary may, on recommendation by the, I presume this is the Maritime Authority, by notice in the Gazette and subject to conditions as may be appropriate, exempt any government entity or enterprise from any provision of this act where such exemption is in the public interest and in furtherance of government policy. Madam Speaker, the reason we are elected to this House, and the reason the responsibility to make law lies in this House, is because we are the custodians of public interest as elected members. And taking this responsibility and giving it to a cabinet secretary to determine whether there is public interest or not. And we know many times that they've said they're doing things in public interest, but you don't know which public they are talking about. This House is vested with responsibility to observe interests of the public, and we know the publics we are talking about. We are talking about the publics who are our constituents. In our counties and in our constituencies, we know whose public interest we are observing, and we know who we are accountable to. And we also know that if you do not observe that public interest, there is somebody waiting for you who employed you to come here to deal with you squarely. So, Madam Speaker, thank you, Madam Speaker, but I might, lose my clout in the committee if my vice chair is upset, but thank you for protecting me. Madam Speaker, the point I was making there is, if there is anybody who is a custodian of public interest, it is this House. It cannot be relegated to a cabinet secretary to determine what is in public interest. So I oppose this amendment. And Madam Speaker, I'd just like to shed some more light on this issue of the amendment to the Public Finance and Management Act, having been a commissioner of the Parliamentary Service Commission in the last Parliament. And as I said earlier on the floor of this House, Madam Speaker, before the new constitution, we had a unicameral parliament. Of course, after the new constitution, did we know section 127 of the constitution is very clear on who is the secretary to the commission. But when we went into the commission, we found that it was very, very difficult to have one accounting officer dealing with everybody. Madam Speaker, you know the interests, the numbers in the National Assembly, for example, are very different from the interests and numbers, for example, in the Senate. So if you just had one accounting officer dealing with everybody, sometimes even that one accounting officer was subject to being bashed for maybe favoring one house and not the other, given that that accounting officer is a clerk of one of the houses. And this is how, through an amendment of the PFM Act, we resolved to have 2 accounting officers, one for the National Assembly and another for the Senate. But even as we progressed, you know, there's always the challenge of, okay, one accounting officer takes care of the National Assembly, another accounting officer takes care of the Senate, who takes care of the job?
Everybody must be a lawyer, or everybody must be a medical doctor. There are people who must also make shoes. What we need to do is train our children to know that when you are a shoemaker, you can be an excellent shoemaker, but not try and force everybody to be a lawyer who was not designed to be a lawyer. And so, Madam Speaker, in terms of the content...
Honorable Millie Odhiambo, order. There is a point of intervention by Honorable Opio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, therefore, I'm saying, based on principle and also based on the content, and to tell the executive that we don't like this tendency where cabinet secretaries are trying to consolidate power and take this country back to where we've come from, where you consolidate power in one person. We will be creating rogue cabinet secretaries. There is a reason why we dispersed power, including through devolution. So why would we be dispersing power, devolving power, and then we come back and concentrate it again through a cabinet secretary? We refuse, because it is that principle died in 2010 when we came up with a new constitution. And we refuse, Madam Speaker, and I want to say that when the cabinet meets next time, they need to have a keen eye and look at the values of the Constitution under Article 10 of the Constitution. Let them not take this country backwards. With those few remarks, I oppose.
You oppose, Honorable Millie. This is a House of Debate members. And thank you, Honorable Millie. You know, the Speaker only has the powers to moderate the debate. And again, thank you for admitting that the Speaker has to be bright. Yes, we are bright for us to be able to deal with the House in matters of procedure. We have an intervention from Honorable Member for Ugunya. You have already spoken unless it's something that is out of order. Yes, and you must pronounce yourself either something that is out of order
yes,
or
Madam
something
Speaker.
that is not procedural.
Madam Speaker, I'm raising understanding order number 95. Given that the bill has been canvassed at length, and we have a chance, at the Committee of the Whole House, and bearing in mind again that we have got other businesses.
Order, members. Let's listen to him.
You know,
and then the Speaker will make
members here must understand that I am a ranking member. So I know these rules, Madam Speaker. So I am moving that the mover be called upon to reply so that we make progress.
Thank you. Constant that you are also a ranking member, Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Member Opio, you have already spoken to this. Then as much as recognize and respect that, then you rightly on the standing order, but maybe another member can do that. However, you are within you understand your standing order. So I will rule that I will not allow you to move such a standing order. So you're out of order. Yes, Honorable Twalib, you cannot purport for you standing to assume that the Speaker is catching the hand. together with the Vice Chairperson, Public Accounts Committee. You must resume your seat. Resume your seat. The member on intervention is a member for Honorable Kilonzo. I can only see you on intervention. Honorable member for Yata.
I don't need to intervene because you have done the right ruling. I thought Honorable Pio being an odd member, you should understand the culture, but you have done the ruling rightly so. So there's no need to waste time of the House.
Very well. The Honorable Vice Chairperson, Public Investments Committee, though you are out of order to raise your hands, you are aware of the procedures. I see your name on the intervention. Then please use the dispatch box.
Madam Speaker, I think it is fair that our colleagues are also cognizant of the fact that some of us are observing the holy month of Ramadan, and this is the time we ought to break our fast. And that way, I am sure many members will be willing to contribute to this matter. However, cognizant of this factor and being sensitive to your brothers, it is just fair enough that we conclude this subject and standing order 9.5 and proceed to the next. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, very well. The member, the Vice Chairperson, Public Investments Committee, you're rightly in the right standing order. Standing order 95 for the mover to be called upon to reply. However, not because I will not rule because of members wanting to break the fast. This is a house that is not for Muslims alone, and it's also full of Christians, Hinduism, and it's really a house for everybody. So honored members, and you know very well if you have to raise on a point of order, you have to be on the intervention for us to be able to know that you want to raise on a point of order. And as we have agreed before, members raising on a point of order, you must state categorically that which standing order you are raising on. So the Honorable Vice Chairperson, Public Investments Committee was rightly to raise on standing order 95. And this one calls upon the mover to reply. And as I said, the Speaker, from where I see, the only way I would gauge this is for me to put the question, which is that the mover be called upon to reply. Will as many as are of the opinion say aye? Aye. And as many as of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The nays have it. Members, the nays have it. The nays have it. So for this matter, let me have the member, Honorable Member for Mwatate.
Oh, thank you, Madam.
Member for Mwatate.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for cognizant that he just came 3 minutes back, while I've stayed here for over 2 hours. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for that. Madam Speaker, protect me from the Member of Parliament of Jomvu. Madam Speaker, on the onset, I stand to oppose these miscellaneous amendments. Though some are good to our country, but due to the format or nature they have brought them, it's not in good order. Because miscellaneous amendments, Madam Speaker, we thought they are just small like anomalies or let's say spellings are bad, which can be brought in miscellaneous. But as per what we have read, some of them are substantive, which they need members to be conversant, read and be conversant what is the content. For example, on the management of, wildlife compensation and the management committee, Madam Speaker, it's true it has a lot of ambiguities. But I remember even before the Act, after the Act of Wildlife 2016, it has not been implemented. But we can see they have already done substantive amendments by removing crop damages. There will be no compensation. If you are bitten by snake, no compensation, and it's coming as a miscellaneous, of which, Madam Speaker, we are losing the objective, purpose, and meaning of miscellaneous amendments. And Madam Speaker, me having a very conversant with the shipping, Madam Speaker, the way this act has been amended, it doesn't, for sure, it requires a lot of stakeholders to sit together and come up with a way. Giving authority to the CS to do all that, Madam Speaker, economically, it is dangerous to the country. It will be more subjective than objective. So, Madam Speaker, I stand with a few comments because I know Mbadi is hungry. He wants to go to break the fast. Madam Speaker, I stand to oppose.
You are standing to oppose? Okay, very well. You're on record opposing. Very well. Honorable members, then I have the member on my request list, a member nominate Oduo Odhiambo. Honorable Oduo Odhiambo. Daktari.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for opportunity to contribute on the status miscellaneous amendment bill. Madam Speaker, from the outset, I'd like to express reservations arising, Madam Speaker, from the very key realization of the separation of powers and indeed the key role that the National Assembly, the legislature, plays, Madam Speaker, in enabling the citizens, in enabling the other arms of government to come up with appropriate laws. Madam Speaker, it has been indicated and stated already that it is extremely important that we understand the purpose of miscellaneous amendment laws. I have, Madam Speaker, as I have listened to the senior and ranking members, but I want to draw, Madam Speaker, as a member that is specially elected serving in the 12th Parliament on the very key induction and preparation for law making, Madam Speaker, which is what I use to express reservations on this Miscellaneous Amendment Act. Madam Speaker, it was clearly imprinted upon my mind as I joined Parliament that a key role that I was going to play, other than oversight and representation of the people, was lawmaking. And Madam Speaker, one key take-home that I had was that as we are making law, we need to see that law does not exist in a vacuum, and that we would need to then see the extent to which whatever law we make is intended to guide and regulate the conduct and affairs of those to whom it is addressed. And in particular, Madam Speaker, it was clear that for a law to be effective, the content and the manner in which it is prepared has to take into account the cultural, economic, and political social condition. Madam Speaker, I look therefore at miscellaneous amendments as items or various types of changes that would be put together to quickly enable a law that would otherwise not be clean or would not really be providing adequate interpretation of the law as it is, but not one where we are getting substantive amendment, Madam Speaker. And I am in particular here, as a member of the Committee of Sports, Madam Speaker, want to agree with the regards to the kinds of amendments that we, in this particular act, from the committee looking at what it is that was presented by the different stakeholders had made recommendations, was really to be able to ensure that as we talk about the training that has to date been limited to Utalii College, and that we use the term college that excludes universities that are currently already offering courses in tourism and hospitality, that we then use such miscellaneous amendments to enable a practice that is already taking place with within standards to be included. However, Madam Speaker, if we were then to look, therefore, at the distinction between miscellaneous and substantive, then we would see that substantive amendments would require that there is a very firm basis in a reality or an important, meaningful change that we would need to make. Therefore, Madam Speaker, as I express my reservations, I'm in particular making reference to the amendment that relates to the School of Law. Madam Speaker, I do this from the perspective as an educationist, and also, Madam Speaker, as someone that has served in different arms, including the arm of the executive, and I am aware, Madam Speaker, that there is a sense in which, as we look at the way that we would want to open up the bureaucracy that could be affecting the School of Law, we would not want to do it at the expense of standards. And I refer back, Madam Speaker, to the context that law really needs to be applied or prepared in cognizance of the social condition of the society. It has been said, Madam Speaker, that a key challenge we experience now is one with regards to standardization. And when we think about the manner in which the School of Law in itself is organized, not only as has been indicated by the Honorable Member of Suba North, Honorable Millie, we see the School of Law serving the intention of ensuring that whatever advocates we are going to get, because not all of them are going to be those who are engaged in practice, because a number could also go and do different other activities, would all be in a way expected to go through a similar standards and would really be in a position, therefore, to be those that have qualifications that all of the different people that work with them or that would need their services would be proud of. And so, Madam Speaker, I would want that we as a House that is aware that we would at any given time have opportunity either to make miscellaneous amendments, in which case we would be dealing with areas where we are dealing, as others have indicated, of semantics, or maybe changing, adding a comma, or just making reference, as has been done in several areas, to existing acts, so that people would know and understand better. We would refrain from a situation, Madam Speaker, which is the other lesson I have learned, that we need to be very careful in lawmaking to perceive if there is any mischief intended or unintended that would in any way impede or affect those that the law is meant for. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I would want, as I make contribution, to indicate my very serious reservation, Madam Speaker, and indeed indicate that I oppose this Miscellaneous Amendment Act for the precise reason that, as the saying goes, if you do have some very good proposals, but then you have even one or two, Madam Speaker, in terms of the issues that we have talked about, the Companies Act, the School of Law, and the PFM Act, we know that what will happen is that the overall impact of what it is that we would have, should we choose, Madam Speaker, then to approve or to support it, it really would mean that we will, in a way, have given, but then taken back with the other hand. And so, Madam Speaker, I would want to urge that because of the current challenge and the need to ensure that we have the different arms of government not only checking on each other, but being seen by public to serve the intended role, that as we make law, as has been said even by the Honorable Member, Dr. Nyikal, we refrain from the tendency that we seem to now lean towards, where we look as if we do not understand that there is a distinction between what is miscellaneous, which could be a collection of different types that do not touch substantive issues, from substantive amendments, which we then, Madam Speaker, would have enough time not only to reflect on, to debate on, but indeed to feel that we have done justice. And so, Madam Speaker, with that, I oppose. Thank you.
You oppose. Very well, very well. Honourable members, I have 4 requests for the members who want to speak to this. I can tell 2 have already spoken to this. The member from Vita has already spoken to this. The member for Ugunja has already spoken to this. So I have the member for Jomfu.
Angalau. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Speaker kwa kunipatia nafasi hii leo pia kuchangia katika mswada huu. Kwanza Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka na mimi pia kuungana na wenzangu katika kupinga mswada huu in totality, vikali, yani moja kwa moja. Na vile vile naungana na Dr. Nyikal Mheshimiwa ambaye amezungumzia.
Order. The member for Jomvu, as you choose to speak in Kiswahili, you know very well you are standing orders. When you start debating in Kiswahili, you must finish in Kiswahili.
Sawa.
So where you say in totality, unless you quote it, then
sawa.
Moja kwa moja, as you call
sawa.
it.
Sawa Mheshimiwa Spika, kulingana na uwezo wako na kulingana na hali ya Kiswahili, nitazungumza Kiswahili adhimu muadhama ambacho sitaunganisha lugha nyingine yoyote. Na in totality maana yake Mheshimiwa Spika ni kwa jumla. Kwa hivyo nimejirekebisha kusema kwa jumla vile ambavyo Mheshimiwa sasa James ni kizungu, sijui nitasema James Nyikal. Pia Mheshimiwa Nyikal kwa yale ambayo aliweza kupinga, na vile vile Mheshimiwa Mili Adhiambo. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikiangalia katika mswada huu kuna mambo ambayo yananigusa binafsi. Nikiwa mbunge pale Mombasa, nikiangalia katika hii mambo ya bandari hapa, tunaona tumempa uwezo mkubwa sana huyu waziri, na ambavyo tukiangalia katika hali hii itaweza kutuumiza sisi tukiwa ni wananchi katika sehemu ya pale Mombasa ambapo bandari iko kwetu. Mfano kama saa hizi mdahalo mkubwa ambao unaendelea katika Kenya National Shipping Line na vile vile kuungana pamoja na MSC ambao ni Mediterranean Shipping Line. Jambo hili si la sawa kwa sababu hakuna usawa. Tukiangalia katika bandari ya Mombasa hivi sasa, kampuni ya Maersk Line ambayo yatoka Uholanzi inabeba shehena 40% ya shehena ya serikali, na vile vile pia yele ambayo ni Pacific International Line ambayo inabeba takribani 15%. Leo mimi nashangaa ni kwa nini Kenya National Shipping Line isiwekwe katika hali ya usawa na wale watu wengine, ipewe tu Mediterranean Shipping Line kwa wachukue bath na kufanya kazi. Na jambo hilo naona hata ndugu yangu mbunge wa Mvita Abdul Swamad anapiga makofi kunipongeza pale, kwa sababu ni jambo ambalo ni la sawa. Na nataka niwe on record kuwa mimi hata kama nazungumza pia yeye fikra ni hizo kuwa lazima kuwe na usawa wa mambo haya. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi kabla kuingia katika siasa nilikuwa nikifanya katika mambo ya bandari, ambapo tunaona kwanza ni lazima ya umuhimu sana tuangalie kwa umakini, kwa sababu tukiangalia kama pesa zote ambazo zinaingia kwa MSC National Shipping Line, pesa hizi za shipping zinakwenda katika nchi yao ya Italy. Pesa nyingi ambazo zinaingia katika Maersk Line zinakwenda katika Uholanzi, na pesa zinazoingia katika shipping line nyingi sana ambao wamefungua local offices zao za hapa nyumbani, wanachukua hizo kisha kupeleka pesa zile katika nchi zao tofauti. Tunajua Kenya National Shipping Line ambayo ni yetu ya Kenya iliundwa mwaka 89, ambapo madhumuni yake ilikuwa ni kuangalia shehena zetu za nchi hii yetu kuwa namna gani ambavyo tutakuwa na leni yetu wenyewe ambayo itakuwa ikibeba shehena hizi. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hivi sasa kama alivyosema Mheshimiwa Mili Odhiambo, tukiangalia kuna watu ambao ni watu ambao ni watapeli ambao wataka kuingia pale kuangalia katikati watapata vipi commission na mambo ya matenda. Alafu pia mimi nashangaa mpaka saa hizi MSC ambao ni Mediterranean Shipping Company, Maersk Line iko, PIL iko, wale wengine ambao wanafanya kazi kama Global Container Lines iko, wanafanya kazi kutoka nchi zao wanakuja katika poti yetu ya Mombasa. Nashangaa mpaka saa hizi hakuna mabaharia wowote ama vijana wetu wowote ambao wameandikwa katika hizo na shipping lines ambazo ziko hapo. Na leo nikizungumza hivi na maanisha bandari ya Mombasa, ile basi ambao wanataka kuitumia imejengwa kutokamana na pesa ya ushuru ya mwananchi, haikujengwa na pesa ya ushuru ya mtu. Kwa hivyo haiwezekani kutaifishwa ama kubinafsishwa, kupawa mtu binafsi akaweza kuifanyia kazi, hali ya sisi wananchi ndio ambao tunailipia kodi katika hali ile. Kwa hivyo ni lazima kuwe na hali ya usawa, na kuona kuwa sisi watu wa Mombasa tutaweza kufaidika katika mpango huu. Na mpango huu mimi nataka kusema katika katiba ni lazima kuwe na kitu inaitwa public participation, yani watu kuhusishwa katika mambo haya. Watu hawajahusishwa kisawa sawa. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka kusema wasitufanyie ile neno ya Kiswahili inaitwa kirbagoji goji kirba, yani kutuzungusha tu hapo hapo, kisha baadaye tunakuwa sisi ni watu ambao hatuna mbele wala hatuna nyuma. Poti ya Mombasa, mimi Mheshimiwa Spika, leo nataka kusema ni mwezi 1.5 uliopita tunaiangalia katika mbuga ya wanyama ya Voi, ambao hivi sasa serikali imeamua nao watapata kipato. Tukiangalia katika Masai Mara, watu wanapata kipato katika Narok County Council. Leo mpaka leo poti yetu wa Mombasa hakuna lolote ambalo tunapata, na watu wetu hawaandikwi kazi kwa usawa. Na leo mimi nataka kupiga firimbi hapa kusema kuwa katika mahali popote, hata kama poti ni national asset, ni lazima watu wahesabiwe poti, waangaliwe wale ambao ni wenyeji wa pale, uwe Mkamba, uwe Mkikuyu, uwe Mjaluo, uwe Msomali, lakini waishi Mombasa, ni mwananchi wa pale Mombasa, lazima priority ya kwanza ama nafasi ya kwanza hapo wao katika port. Kwa hivyo hivi sasa tunaona kuna watu wengi sana ambao wanaandikwa katika port, na kuna watu wetu ambao wamesoma wako pale pale hawapati nafasi kama hiyo. Kwa hayo machache na hayo mengi, nashukuru na washukuru wabunge wenzangu kwa kukataa mswada huu kwa sababu utatumiza. Na leo mwisho kumalizia, kwa sababu tunataka kwenda kufuturu baada ya dakika 5. Nataka kuchukua fursa hii nikiwa Muislamu, nikiwa mbunge ambaye nahudumu katika kipindi cha pili cha bunge hii, kuwaombea Waislamu wote popote pale walipo hilo Ramadhani njema, wafunge kwa kusaidiana baina ya wenyewe kwa wenyewe na kusimamisha dini ya Kiislamu. Asanteni na Mwenyezi Mungu atusaidie. Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika, nasimama kupinga, tena napinga na tena napinga sana, kutoka pwani pale Mombasa, mbunge wa Jomvu. Asante.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa kwa Kiswahili sanifu pia. Then on my request list, the member for Kinangop.
Yeah, I do not want to speak on this one, Honorable Speaker. I wish to speak on the next one. Thank you.
Or you wish to speak on the next one. Then now I call upon the mover to reply. There be no other request. Honorable Washiali.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, on behalf of the mover, who is the leader of Majority Party, I want to start by thanking all members who have contributed on this bill. Honorable Speaker, I was worried, as I was sitting here, I was worried that given that today is the last day of this week, and that members were proceeding to go for recess, I was worried that this bill may not have received the attention that it has actually received. And I would think that members would actually retreat and proceed to go on recess. But I've been impressed, or we have been impressed as a House, that members hanged on and have debated this bill exhaustively. Madam Speaker, we have taken note. We have taken note of the feelings of members. This is a miscellaneous bill that had 15 pieces of legislation. And already the mover had removed withdrawn one. We have also listened to what members have been saying, and I'm sure that members know how to go about, and I'm sure they are going to address this in the third reading. What I would want to say as I finish, Honorable Speaker, is that members should not gag themselves. Miscellaneous amendment is allowable by law. In fact, the previous miscellaneous amendment bill that we were looking at before, it was much bigger. It covered more bills than the current ones that are addressing this statute law. Therefore, members should not gag themselves. This is a shorter way of addressing quite a number of bills at the same time, and we should not try to discourage the government from bringing miscellaneous bill that would address quite a number of issues. And where we find a problem, we have to correct, like I've been hearing from members. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I thank you and I wish to reply.
Procedurally, you wish to reply. Thank you, the Honorable Member for Mumias for the reply on this. Honorable members, guided by the procedures and our own standing orders, I am not in a position to put the question on the order number 14, on the statute law, miscellaneous amendment bill, National Assembly Bill number 21 of 2019, on the second reading, and I do order that the question will be put in the next sitting at the most appropriate time. Next order.
Order number 15, motion. Report on the inquiry into procurement and implementation of the exercisable goods management system and an integrated production accounting system by the Kenya Revenue Authority.
Very well, honourable members. This is a resumption of debate which was interrupted on the Wednesday, May 8th, 2019 in the afternoon sitting. The honourable, members on my request, the first one spoke to it was the chairperson of Public Investments Committee. Honourable Member for Uguja, you are the next one. You want to speak to this? Just go into record because I can see. Get your mic. Honourable Member, just speak because I've already mentioned your name. You're not on mic.
Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I do not wish to contribute on this motion. Yeah, I'll be speaking on the next motion.
Very well, very well. Then I have the member for Kinangop. Honourable Thuku.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity to speak on the procurement of EGMS. In fact, I'm a member of Public Investment Committee, so we sat and we have gone through all the evidence adduced and the witnesses who came to the same. And from the foregoings, we found that the whole process, as much as it was, there were so many issues that came up in the process of procurement. We've found out that it was such an important procurement that KRA undertook. And I wish to support our report on the recommendations thereof. And of importance is the issue of public participation, whereby we would wish to see, going forward, a more broad form of public participation, because there was outcry that there was no public participation that took place because it was so structured. So maybe we also need to legislate as a house on the form and the mode of public participation, because it's becoming an issue. Every time there's something that is of public interest, people are gathered, some people who have no interest in the matter. And because it's just a formality to show that public participation actually happened, then it's become a big issue. And finally now, because I do not want to take much time on the same, I would wish to see a situation whereby KRA consorts with the like-minded agencies like Anti-Counterfeit Agency, KEBS, so that then even after procuring this system, the same can be used by the relevant agencies like Anti-Counterfeit, so that then they don't duplicate again to try and procure a system that is also going to be foolproof in terms of making sure that they secure the public from counterfeits. And also KEBS, they should not go ahead and still procure a system that is similar to the one that is with the Kenya Revenue Authority. And therefore, I wish to support our report and say that PIC is doing a good job. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well, the member representing the people of Kinangop in our 12th Parliament. All members, I see no other requests. Honorable Wanga, you want to speak to this? And where is your card again? Oh, yeah. Yes, Honorable, but you just don't raise up if you want to speak to this. You must also notify. I mean, standing...
No, so apologies, Madam Speaker. I thought I had lifted my hand.
We don't also lift hands in the...
So I don't know. I didn't know whether to...
But because you've caught my eye, Honorable Wanga.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for catching your eye and you catching my eye. Madam Speaker, let me just submit briefly that I support very much this report and thank the PIC, led by a very able chairman, the Honorable Member from Vita, and our Vice Chair and the leadership. Madam Speaker, the most important point here in this report is many people still believe that public participation means concurrence, which is not the case. You can discuss and give your views But even if the committee or whoever you're giving your views to do not concur with what you have said, it still qualifies as public participation. And therefore, one of the key recommendations is the need for a law on public participation so that the public is guided. Madam Speaker, the other recommendation that we make is on exemption of plain drinking water from taxation. Madam Speaker, you find that one of the exercisable goods under this system is drinking water. So one of the things we want to propose is to exempt plain drinking water, because this is a constitutional right, because Kenyans are entitled to safe drinking water by the Constitution. Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, and because of constraints of time, I wholly and fully support this report.
Very well. With that, honorable members, there be no other interest. I call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to once again take the opportunity to thank each and every one of our members, very, very able members, for actually having been able to bear the might of such a heavy task, and in the interest of every single Kenyan and this very House to be able to adopt this particular report. I want to re-emphasize one of the things that we have insisted on is that taxation on pure drinking water should be zero. There should not be taxation on water. Secondly, we have insisted that it is important for this House to be able to now come up with laws that will govern what entails public participation. And the other thing as well is we are now saying that there's no need for an extra cost on manufacturers, and that the same system being used by KRA should be sent over to the other state agencies. And even after this contract expires, Madam Speaker, that these state agencies, that is the Anti-Counterfeit, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, and Kenya Revenue Authority, should come up with one system so that we do not have duplication of jobs. And I think with that in mind, I beg to move.
You beg to move. Very well.
I beg to reply. I beg to reply. This is a House of Record. I beg
beg
to reply. Sorry.
Correct. You beg to reply. Allow me also appreciate your work. I can see you are vice chairperson there, and every other means like you are consulting. So vice chair, you are not in a position to speak to this. Your chairman has replied. So I can see your name. You have no capacity to reply after you are chairman. But I appreciate his consultation to you every other time. So honorable members, again, guided by our standing orders and procedures of the House, I am not in a position to put the question to the report of the inquiry into the procurement and implementation of the accessible goods management system and an integrated production accounting system by the Kenya Revenue Authority that has been brought to the House as a motion, as a report by the chairperson, Public Investment Committee. And I therefore order that the question to motion number 15 on the said report will be put before the House at the right sitting as it will be slotted in your order papers. Next. Order.
Order number 16, motion. Report on the examination of the financial statements for the national government for the financial year 2015-2016.
Honorable members, on order number 16, that is a motion on the examination of the financial statements for the national government for the financial year 2015-2016 financial year, as indicated in your order paper by the chairperson, Public Accounts Committee. It is a resumption of debate interrupted on the Wednesday, May 8th, 2019, in the morning sitting. So the members who are requesting to speak to this, the member from Vita? No, reply. I wish for you to reply. Just go on record, because on my record you're on requesting to speak. Maybe you go into record? Are you wishing to speak to this?
No, Madam Speaker, I don't wish to speak to this, but actually I just want to re-emphasize that parliaments and myself and by extension, hopefully the whole of Parliament, our strength that we have with our chair, and we are asking him to be able to reply. As per the standing orders, Madam Speaker.
You're out of order. You are not even, you know, when you stand to ask for anything either within the standing order, out of order, or point of order, you must also know the procedure. But I get that you are not ready to speak to this. That is the position. The next request is a member for Wajir North, the Honorable Ibrahim Abdisalam.
Madam Speaker.
The public should know that this
Madam
is a
Speaker, as I have raised earlier, this is like the injury time for those of us observing their fast. Indeed, this is the time we ought to break our fast. However, that said, I have no doubt that I have to add my voice to this motion. Indeed, I want to congratulate the Public Accounts Committee for a well done job. And no doubt that they have submitted a number of reports to this office, to this house. And indeed, they did it timely. Of course, that does not mean that the Public Investment Committee have not been submitting timely reports. That way, Madam Speaker, I think government agencies are obliged to minimize wastage as much as possible and ensure that there is effective, efficient use of resources so as to deliver their best to the taxpayers. Madam Speaker, I will definitely support this report and of course request that the next speaker will also take 1 minute or so that we ask the mover to reply. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Very well. The member who has just finished debating, you cannot dictate the next speaker to take a minute or so. You know, this is a household procedure. You know how long a member takes. You know, this is a member for Wajir North to speak to a bill, a motion. So there's any other speaker who was willing and is willing to speak to this is free to use the minutes that have been allocated as it was passed in the House. Again, honourable members, every other motion and a bill, of course, we know as per our standing orders, we propose, it is seconded, it is moved, seconded, and proposed. Having been, that is a report on the Public Accounts Committee, having been moved, seconded, proposed, and members contributing, which is free for contribution, I need to pronounce myself that I have no other request to speak to this, to the Public Accounts Committee, and I therefore call upon the mover to reply. There be no any other member requesting to speak to the report.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity. I also wish to thank all the members who have contributed to this very important motion. Indeed, as I mentioned when I was moving this motion, that this is a report that carries a lot of weight in terms of determining how the national revenues are to be shared between the national government and the county governments. The Public Accounts Committee is on track and is committed to ensuring that there is no excuse whatsoever in terms of allocations of revenues to the counties by undertaking its work and submitting these reports on time. We are also on course to clear the very heavy backlog that we inherited from the last Parliament in terms of examination of the reports of the Auditor General on ministries, state departments, constitutional commissions, and independent offices. We have highlighted a number of issues in this report, and I'm happy that members who have contributed have also reiterated the same fact, that public funds must be utilized in an effective manner, in a manner that brings value to taxpayers, and that anybody who will be found to have misused public funds would have to be held to account at an individual level. That is the most important thing that has come out in this report and that members have agreed to. So we look forward to further engagement with the other ministries and state departments with regard to the 2016-2017 financial year reports, and also remain hopeful that before the end of this session, the third session of this parliament, we shall have submitted a report on the 2016-2017. With those few remarks, Madam Speaker, I wish to reply.
You wish to reply. Thank you, Chairperson, Public Accounts Committee. Members, on the same notes, guided again by the same procedures and our standing orders of the Parliament, I am also not in a position to put the question on motion number 16, which is on the report of the examination of the financial statements for the national government for the financial year 2015/2016 by the Chairperson, Public Accounts Committee. And therefore do order that the same question to be put on the right time next sitting, it will be slotted in your order paper. Next order.
Order number 17, the Law of Contract Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2019, second reading.
Very well, the mover, that is the Honorable Francis Waititu, MP, to move the Law of Contract Amendments Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2019 on motion number 17. Honorable members, I thought you had the Honorable Waititu. Yes, other members from where I sit. Yes, the leader of majority and the capacity.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, through the leadership, we were able to talk to Honorable Waititu, who is currently not feeling well, and we agreed that this bill should appear on the order paper immediately we resume sittings in the next session. Therefore, I just want to request that we step down this bill until when we resume business of the House.
Very well, with pronouncements and communication from the leadership, House leadership, to the effect that the mover of the bill is not in a position, of course, with good reasons, of not moving the Law of Contract Bill, Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2019. I therefore do direct that the same is stood down. Honourable members, there being no other business in our order paper for today, that is May 9th, 2019, I need to move an adjournment motion, which is a notification of recess from May 10th, 2019 to June 3rd, 2019. Honourable members, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28.3 relating to calendar of the Assembly and the resolution of the House of Tuesday, March 26, 2019, the Speaker notifies that upon rise of the House today at the appointment time, which is now, regular sittings will resume on Tuesday, June 2019 at 2:30 p.m. And members, the time being 6:59 p.m., the House stands adjourned till the Tuesday, 4th June 2019 at 2:30 p.m. I thank you all and I wish you all the best in your short recess.